Welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. It's been a while since we've talked to Mono White, so let's look at Masako. Masako. Sounds like a flower over on the baking aisle. Anyway, she's got flash, and your tapped creatures can block like they were untapped. I guess you can see by the old style label here that I started this deck a while back. I started this deck a couple years ago, and it just hasn't. I haven't. I don't know. Hit upon the right thing to, you know. But I finally did. Now, naturally, it leads you down the path of kind of super aggro. You're like, well, I can attack and I can still block. It's almost like you think it's kind of a version of vigilance almost, but I didn't go that route. I was like tapped, untapped. Yeah, I'm gonna focus in on the whole just being tapped. Maybe not creatures that just their only means of tapping is attacking. So the very first thing is I was like, well, okay, so there's really no drawback to my creatures being tapped. Orb of Dreams says everything comes into play tapped. Well, yeah, that's your lands and everything too. So this is hurting you a little bit, but it's hurting everybody else worse. You still got blockers at least, but naturally, the one thing that you play with the orb is, of course, the amulet. And hopefully, in your perfect world, the amulet comes down on turn one. But, let's face it, you have a, what is that, 8% chance of that happening? After you take mulligans more. But Amulet of Vigor, really good, especially if you get the both of those out, because your orb is then one-sided, and, screw you guys. That's why. That's what, Also, Throne of the God Pharaoh, it led me right there, because, if our creatures are tapped at the end of each turn, then, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures. So that's pretty sweet. And the road from there was kind of dark and twisty, I'll admit. Solo's Web kind of does the same thing. Now, the orb says permanents, that's including lands, and your opponent's lands, like, lands with an activated ability don't produce mana, like Rogue's Passage. Yeah, it produces mana, but it also, all those flip lands, that are enchant flip. Kill Switch. Let's just tap all the rocks and they won't untap. Emi Statue. You can only untap one artifact. Static Orb. 2 permanents. Damping Field. Only 1 artifact. So, yeah, it's led me down like a dark, twisty place, I'll admit. So let's look at our creatures. Now, we have obviously the Loxodon Gatekeeper to make everything your opponents control come in tap. Because, to be honest with you, if I've got the Gatekeeper and the Orb, I'll wait a turn and play the Gatekeeper. Maybe keep the Orb as a plan B. I've got Juggernaut, because you know what? Juggernaut's going to be tapped, because he has to attack, assuming he's going to live. It's a 3 toughness, and he dies a lot. But not as many folks run the Bolt in EDH as... Now, the Imposing Sovereign, here again, just their creatures for your opponent. I'm running the Krovax. There again, we are mono white, which, I mean, it's mono white. There's certain things you got to do, I got to do. Krovax, Armored Ascension. I just like those cards because they win games and stuff. Now, Order of the Sacred Torch. So I'm also looking at creatures that just tapped as part of what they did. Now, this is super powerful. Just tap and pay a life to counter a black spell. Wow. So, yeah, it's going to be tapped, because black is a very popular color Now we go along the lines of the Master Decoy range. The Master Decoy is going to be tapped. Now, granted, you're probably not blocking much with a Master Decoy, but it kind of fits the whole tapped creature theme. So the Master Decoy, of course, we got the Blinding Mage that's pretty similar. Uh, Keljoran Royal Guard will also be tapped. Now this is like the perfect card for the deck. It taps for an ability that prevents damage to you, and it's got a 5 toughness. So I mean this is everything we want to be doing. Now, Outlast, admit it. When we first started reading Outlast, we were all like, "Oh my gosh, you put them only as a sorcery." That's what got me with Outlast. Is I was like, you know what, only as a sorcery, so I've got to do it on my turn, so I can't block with it. Well, now, thanks to Masako, we ain't got to worry about that. So yeah, and these I chose the Outlast creatures that give creatures with +1/+1 counters an extra ability like flying, or the Battle Priest gives them all lifelink. The Kin gives them first strike. Now, granted, the patrol don't really contribute to the tribe, as it were, but it does outlast itself. Along with the +1 counter thing, of course, we have the Dragonscale General, and it checks on. I mean, it's bolster. It does the tap creatures. It's the +1 counters. It just kind of it was the perfect storm of the cards that you wanted to be in here. Now, Angel of Salvation is another way to tap creatures. Convoke is a real thing that matters. We'll see. I didn't put all the Convoke creatures together. Of course, we got the Conclave Phalanx that's Convoke, which is also, a 4 toughness, so it's not bad. Gains you a little bit of life. The Apothecary, Radiance, it was a Boros mechanic in the original Ravnica block, and I think it had potential. I don't think it was done well enough then, but I think it's got potential. But I also think it is a ticking time bomb that if they tweak it, if they push it too much, it's just going to break something. I think it could be overpowered very easily. But, you tap to prevent damage that shares a color. So that's pretty neat. Now, Sunblast Angel feels like a Nombo. It feels like the worst card for the deck, and it probably is. But you know what? It is just the definition of, it specifically uses the word tapped. So that was kind of my theme. Obviously, we're not playing this if we have a board full of tapped creatures, but it's meant to blow up your opponent's stuff. Now, obviously, Mentor of the Meek. We're going to draw some cards, obviously. Hookmaster enters the battlefield. You tap a creature an opponent controls. Court Street Denizen. A white creature enters the battlefield. Well, that's kind of all of them, but Juggernaut, isn't it? Yeah. Benevolent Ancestor. Good blocker, got a 4 toughness, and it prevents the damage. Now, Sotari Visionary is the exception to everything I've already said. It does not matter. Odds are this is not blocking anything because it has Shadow, but this is removal. This is repeatable removal. That's what it is, because repeatable enchantment removal now is almost necessary. Sun Cleanser is going to get rid of all those counters from that Hydra, or it's going to get rid of all those energy counters or experience counters or whatever. It does have a 4 toughness, so that's, I forgot a Tappy Dude, the Binless Trapper. Luminant Primordial. I'll admit, this one grabbed my eye because it's shiny. And y'all know I'm part wrecking. It's 7 toughness. Kills a bunch of things. Gains you some life. Gerard. The star of the story for so many sets. You know, you're going to gain 1 life for each card in target opponent's hand. There's always that blue player that, you know, has a fistful of cards. Like the last deck that we just saw 2 days ago, you know. And of course, you can just tap dudes while he's attacking. Now, I'll be honest with you, Death Speaker's in there because he's a 1 mana, 1/1 pro black, and you just don't get that rate no more. Veteran of the Depths. When it becomes tapped, you get a counter on it, so that's a thing. Schoolmaster. When it becomes tapped, you get a merfolk. Now, granted, it's blue. It's, sure. Midnight Guard. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, untap this. By the way, this will be starring in the Emma deck. Presence of God is a good thing. Now, Master Healer, of course, got that 4 toughness, preventing damage. Nibbleless of the Mist. You can tap a creature when it comes into play. Zatalpa. Because sometimes you need to end games. Has Vigilance, so it doesn't really honestly fit in the deck, I'll be honest, but it sometimes you just got to finish it out. White Knight. Now, the Witch Hunter, I like the Witch Hunter because she's got 2 tap abilities. Now, granted, it is a 4 mana 1/1, and you're tapping to deal 1 damage to a player. You can't target a creature with it, but the 3 mana tap ability bounces a small creature. Return target creature. Oh, no, it's not a small creature. I was thinking 3 mana. Return target creature opponent controls from play to their hand. And, of course, the enchantments go bye-bye. They don't even have to write that on there anymore. It's just rules. But white doesn't get a whole lot of opportunities to just at will bounce a creature. And that's kind of why I like this, is it's that insurance policy. Angry Mob. I'll be honest with you, this card makes me almost want to run an Urborg in a mono white deck. But generally, somebody's got an Urborg. There's a lot of black is very popular. If Urborg comes out, oh my gosh. Swamps all opponents' control. It's just dumb. Okie dokie. Now, let's look at other things. What we got? Some removal? Sure, why not? Let's go big. Phyrexian Rebirth, of course. Chroma's Vengeance and Terminus. Those are the cards they want us to play, evidently, because they keep reprinting them. Now, I am running Pacifism. Crib Swap. Celestial Flare. It's mono white. We don't have a lot of. Now, granted, Sword to Plowshare is, Path to Exile. Those are the 2 best ones there are. If I had them, they'd be in here, trust me. But there are others out there. And I think that Path and Swords just eclipse. Yes, they're just leaps and bounds ahead. But if you take those out, you're forced to look at other things. Target player sacrifice an attacking or blocking creature. Well, you know what? Most of the time, you don't have a problem with a creature unless it's a combo piece. Unless it's attacking you. Got Aven Cloud Chaser as a removal spell. It's more or less a disenchant. Rebuke is pretty much the same card as the other. Now, I love Take Vengeance because it fits the theme. It's a tapped creature, and those other cards that destroy an attacking creature, odds are that creature is tapped as well. Devouring Light has Convoke, where you just exile that attacking creature. Soul Snare. Now here, this one, it has to be attacking you. But it's tapped, therefore, or it's attacking, therefore it's probably tapped. Nevermore. I've got Nevermore just simply because, I build a lot around commanders. Most people do. You see that legend and you're like, oh, I'm going to build around this card. And, a lot of decks just sit there if they can't play their general. And if you know somebody is playing the combo, you see Niv Mizzet over, I don't care which Niv Mizzet, all three of them now do the same thing, whatever. But you see it over there in the command zone and you're like, I know what that deck does. Nevermore. Nevermore. Got the high ground so that block while tapped, and we can block an additional creature. Puppet Strings Puppet Strings is just the card of the deck, probably. You tap and you untap. Why not? Scepter of Dominance, same thing. We're tapping permanents. And Brave the Elements. I was able to pick up a couple of shiny Brave the Elements. That was pretty sweet. Found that at my friendly local game store. Can't say it enough. Support your local game store. You can't play FNM at Amazon. And, it's Brave the Elements. It's mono white, so why not? And our last card is, of course, Due Respect. It is a great instant. It is, especially if you haven't really made your intentions known about, hey, you don't have the orb, you don't have the static or whatever, and you're just like, you know what? Especially if somebody casts their Avengers in the car and they're coming out with a dozen tokens or a dozen tokens of any kind, just, hey, all your stuff's going to come into play tap this turn. Of course, you don't do it until their stuff is on the stack, obviously. But that's what I've got for Masako. Glad to get this one finished. It's been a while since we've done mono white. Try to stay away from mono white because I think I have more mono white decks than any other monocolor. I don't know, green is probably up there too. Y'all know how much I love elves. But anyway, I do appreciate you watching. Y'all let me know what you think. Did I miss any cool tapped cards? I'm sure I did. Icy Manipulator was up there, I'll be honest with you. But I didn't put the Bone Crank in or the, Glowy Sphere. But that's what I've got for this one. Right now, I think it's time to shuffle and cut.